talk about NICU awareness. I do want to put a little disclaimer out there. Probably should have did this prior to, but Steph can edit this out and make it before and after in the middle. We are going to be talking about health-related issues and prematurity births. It can be very traumatizing for some. I know for me, I've been through it. It was still traumatizing to watch shows or hear shows for a very long time, and it's still a little bit difficult for me as well. So just a little disclaimer for you guys. I am going to go into detail about my daughter, about her birth, about her NICU stay, and share some other stories of things that I've heard in the NICU, and some statistics. So, full disclaimer.
Buckle up.
Hello, my loves. Welcome back to our podcast. As you're well aware, we're the Babbling Sisters. I'm Nellie.
And I'm Steph.
And today we are going to talk about NICU awareness. I do want to put a little disclaimer out there. Probably should have did this prior to, but Steph can edit this out and make it before and after in the middle. We are going to be talking about health-related issues and prematurity births. It can be very traumatizing for some. I know for me, I've been through it. It was still traumatizing to watch shows or hear shows for a very long time, and it's still a little bit difficult for me as well. So just a little disclaimer for you guys. I am going to go into detail about my daughter, about her birth, about her NICU stay, and share some other stories of things that I've heard in the NICU, and some statistics. So, full disclaimer.
Buckle up.
It's gonna be a ride, and I'm gonna try not to cry.
It's going to be hard.
Duh. So, first thing I really have to say, before I had Sky, I heard we all hear about premature birth, right?
Yep.
It's not talked about how it should be talked about. They say you're never fully prepared, but I could have been better prepared.
You could have at least had some more information.
I don't know if I could have had enough information.
No. And of course, every situation's different, so it's
right. But even just about the NICU itself, what I will say is I did not realize how sick babies are, whether born early or even at gestation, full term. I did not realize how sick these babies could be. I did not realize how chaotic the NICU could be, and how emotional and bonding it could be. There were a lot of things I did not know, and honestly, maybe if I had more of the information, I never would have been fully prepared to see and hear what I did. But I think just knowing a little bit more about how small these babies are, that are in the NICU, because I did not know that was possible. I think when majority of us picture babies in the NICU, we're picturing newborns that are sick.
right.
No. we need to change the narrative and really start talking a little bit more in depth about the reality, and what families go through that are in the NICU, because forbid that ever happened to someone you know or you. I think it's best for us to all kind of have a sense of awareness to how to navigate,
Absolutely.
because we definitely got thrown into the fire, for sure. So, with that said, a little background story. As you guys have heard me talk about my daughter, she is a micropreemie. A micropreemie is defined as a baby that is born before 26 weeks and or below 2 pounds. So even if they are 32 weeks and 1.5 pounds, they're considered a micro
Micro
preemie.
preemie.
So there are micro preemies and then there are preemies. Premature babies are babies born between 26 weeks to 37 weeks.
Okay.
Any baby born before 37 weeks is early term, just so you guys know and understand. Before I get into some details about my journey with my micro preemie and all the amazingness that she is, I'm also going to share a couple of things that I brought down here with me to give you guys an idea while I'm traveling through the journey and the story with you guys of what it really looks like. So, first, let me say, I did not also realize, um, call me sheltered or whatever, but I didn't realize how many premature births there were. And
Yeah.
again, I think it goes to it's not really talked about,
No.
right? People don't like discussing sick children, and I totally get that. I understand that. It's very difficult and very hard for a lot of people. And even along my journey, there were a lot of my friends who could not come into the hospital to see Sky and were petrified of even seeing pictures of her. So you really have to understand that it's very difficult for some people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we are going to share some photos of Sky while she was in the NICU. So, forewarning, if it is difficult for you to see a baby with breathing tubes and breathing assistance and things like that, don't look at the photos. But just know that she is amazing and has exceeded all odds.
Facts.
Um, Truly blessed, the little miracle that she is. So, I'm gonna be looking at my phone to make sure I get these numbers right. Don't judge me. I can't have everything in my brain, guys. I know I'm fucking amazing, okay? So 1 in every 10 infants born in the United States are preterm labor.
One
That's a
in
lot.
10. That is a lot.
That's a lot. Um, the preterm birth rate has risen 4% since 2021.
4% since
4%.
2021. That's crazy.
Well, in 2021. So
Oh,
2022.
yeah, yeah, but
20,
still. That's a
2020.
big
Yeah.
jump for even a
I
2.
I
That's big.
honestly think COVID played a part in that.
It's very
Um,
possible. It could be skewing the numbers slightly,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I really do. Um, because you're talking about adding stress,
Yeah.
adding sickness, and it's very difficult. I couldn't imagine going through what I went through during COVID.
Oh man, that would be a
My
lot.
heart goes out to all of the families that have had to navigate the NICU during COVID. I don't think I would have survived as great as I did um, during that. I just don't. It's a
Yeah.
very secluded time to begin
To
with.
begin with,
Uh,
absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
I know I didn't show up that much because I was petrified with my kids and germs, and I was like, I am not going to be the one to give this one any germs. Like, so
yeah.
we were trying to time it to make sure nobody had any sniffles or anything. Like, it was rough, man.
It's hard. It's hard. And also, I had to understand that coming into the hospital to see a sick child is even harder, especially the state that she was in. Um, but you guys were there number one, you know? So it's not like you weren't there for me.
No,
You
oh
know what
no, I
I
just like mean physically I wasn't there as often as I wanted to be.
Right, right. And I get that. I get it because again, you don't want to be sick. And it was pre-COVID,
Right.
but these babies are sick enough. And you're like, the fuck if I'm gonna be to blame to give them a cold on top of it because it could be catastrophic.
Yeah.
We know that. So yeah, so racial and ethnic differences and preterm birthing rates remain the same.
Okay.
um, African American women are more susceptible to preterm birth, which they are at 14.8%,
That's
which is
high.
about 50% higher
Yeah, that's
than white or
high.
Hispanic women.
That's high.
And what I will say, and one thing that was said to me while I was laying on the delivery bed in the delivery ward, being told that I was going to get wheeled down to have a C-section at 24 weeks, um, all of the nurses said, "We really believe you're going to be okay. We just want you to know that this is the best case scenario because your daughter is mixed. She's considered African American. African American females statistically do the best and are the strongest in the NICU."
Hmm.
Did not know that.
Interesting.
Yeah, did not know that. So they were being very motivational at that point in time. We'll get further into the story in a second. But yeah, so it says
I keep stretching.
a developing baby goes through important growth throughout pregnancy, including the final months and weeks. The final months and weeks are the most important for development. Lungs are not developed until 36 weeks.
Yeah, that's very late. They're like one of the last things.
Yeah. Um, so that was something that was very, very scary to go through. But um, they say babies that are born too early, especially 32 weeks, especially before 32 weeks, have a higher rate of death and disability. Preterm birth and low birth weight accounted for about 16% of infant deaths before 1 year of age. Babies who survive may have breathing problems, feeding difficulties, cerebral palsy, development delays, vision and hearing issues. Um, 15 million babies are born premature annually worldwide.
Wow.
15 million.
That's crazy.
And we're talking about 37 weeks and before.
Right.
Um, Global preterm birth rate is about 11% worldwide. 12% of the 3.6 million babies born in the US are born preterm. 517,000 babies in the US are born preterm. Just not sure where that breakdown comes. The 12% of 3.6 million babies born in the US are born preterm. And then 517,000 is what it says below it. So not really sure where they're breaking that down. Um, but sure. I don't know. The US preterm birth rate is the worst in the world, by the way.
Shocker.
Oh, but we're the greatest. Anyway, I digress. We're not here for that. So Sky was born at 24 weeks and 4 days. Um, she weighed a pound, 3 ounces, and we didn't get to measure her until later, but we're guessing she was around 10 and a half, 11 inches. Um, she was very tiny.
Very, very tiny.
She did not have eyelashes. She did not have fingernails yet. She was rather see-through in the very beginning. You could see all of her blood vessels and some of her organs. Her skin was very paper thin, so we had to be very careful with touching her. Um, and I actually did not hold her until she was 5 days old, which in itself was amazing and a miracle because a lot of parents go weeks and months without being able to hold their baby. Um, so I think I was around 18 weeks when I started having issues. We do not know the reason why I went into early labor. There was no preeclampsia, there was no tearing of the uterus or placenta. I honestly think I have an incompetent cervix, but they won't diagnose that until multiple times. I don't want to try again and do
I
that.
don't. I don't want to risk that
Yeah.
again. That's what.
um, so at 18 weeks, I went in for a routine ultrasound to check her growth, and they found that my cervix was thinning and tunneling. All I heard was my cervix is opening, which it was. Um, so they sent me up to my OB, and she's like, "What do you understand from what's going on?" And I was like, "It's opening, and it shouldn't be." That's when I just started bawling, crying. So she explained to me exactly what was happening, and they were going to do a cerclage, which is essentially stitching my cervix closed. So the opening of the cervix, they stitch it closed to help it not open prematurely, to assist with keeping it closed long enough to be able to carry her. Um, and my doctor was fairly confident that that would help and did not put me on bed rest, did not feel that she just told me to take it easy and to listen to my body. And did warn me that she feels like I would get at least one more big scare before I gave birth. Um, that big scare came a few weeks later,
Yeah.
about 5 weeks later. So at 23 weeks, um, I started spotting. And well, I think it was like 22 and a half.
Yeah, I was around 22.
Yeah. I started spotting, went into, I called my doctor, told her because I ended up losing my mucus plug. Um, and the blood was pretty red. It wasn't gushing or anything, but it wasn't normal. And I knew that. And I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, what's happening here? I was having a lot of lower back pain, but I ignored it for a little bit. And I'm glad I didn't ignore it for a long time. One thing I will say is, ladies, and even men, please make sure that the woman in your lives or you yourself are paying attention to your body, because it is literally life or death in that situation. um and I thankfully only put it off for a couple of hours. I was like, because I always had lower back pain, but it was cramping and it got really intense, and then that with the spotting, I was like, no.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was like, we're going to the emergency room. I called the doctor on the way, and she's like, you should come in. I said, I'm already on my way. 3 o'clock in the morning, zooming down the highway,
Hmm.
because I just knew something wasn't right. So I get there, and they bring me up to the labor and delivery floor, and that's where they bring all the women, which is very traumatic in itself here, people, because if something goes horribly wrong, you're amongst women who are happy and boasting and full on labor and having their beautiful, healthy little babies all around you. Traumatizing in itself. So if this ever, forbid, happens to you, please understand that that is something you're going to have to mentally endure. I wasn't prepared for that, let me tell you. Um, so we get up there, they check me. Cervix is closed, the stitches look good, there's no tension on the stitches, there's no active bleeding. They were going to send me home. And the doctor comes in, and she's just talking to me, and she's like, this, she's like, maybe the stitches got a little bit tight, just try to lay down a little more. And I was like, yeah, no, I took a photo of the blood that I wiped
Yeah.
and whatever was explaining to her. And thankfully, my brain, because I'm so used to having to
Prove
prove
it.
shit,
Yep.
right?
Uh,
And thankfully I did, because that doctor looked at the photo and she goes, "Oh no, you're not going home." Just by the photo itself. And when I tell you, it wasn't an immense amount of blood,
right.
but the color of the blood, and my symptoms made her say, "Nope,
Nope.
fuck that."
Yep.
And thankfully, she had me admitted. Because if I would have been sent home, my story would have ended a lot more tragic. Um, So I was in there, it was right around 23 weeks, that I think it might have been like 23 and 3 days. Now, they told me, be prepared to stay in here until you give birth or you're full term and give birth. Either way. you're here until you have her.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, I'm about to live in a hospital. Because in my mind, right, I'm in the hospital. I have the stitches. I'm on bed rest now. I'm going to 40 weeks,
Yeah.
right? So I have a long time to be in this hospital.
Mm.
I was like, all right, I'm going to take a couple of days. I'm going to start working remotely. Let me hit up my doctors, my work, and tell them, like, hey, this is what's happening. I'm in the hospital. Work remote, because I was already working remote from home because I was having lower back pain. So 23 weeks come, and now every day they're coming in, they're checking the baby. Got her on the monitor. She's sounding great. No, like, stress tests and
Yeah.
ultrasounds and this and that. And they always tell you, if you ever see a change in discharge, let them know. So I went into the bathroom, peed, and then I went to stand up, and just more pee. What I thought, more pee came out, and I was like, what is that? And I'm like, is that blood? So I reached down, feel, not blood, just liquid. And I was like, okay, it's not stopping. So I tell the nurse, like, I don't know if my water just broke, but like, I thought I was peeing, but I had already peed, and it's still coming out. It's
Yeah.
trickling out. So she's like, all right. She's like, let's lay down. We'll get the doctor. We'll check you. So they come in, they check me. They're like, your cervix looks great, but this is definitely your water. Your water
Yeah.
has broke. And I was like, well, that's not good,
Nope.
because my mind, water breaks, baby's coming,
Right.
right? So they're like, don't worry, we can still, work to keep her in. The water actually rebuilds itself over time, so long as, like, this everything isn't broken, the sac hasn't broke, like, she's
Yeah.
not coming, right? So I was like, okay, well, that's good news, right?
Right.
So they're like, let's keep an eye on everything. So um they had sent me down for an ultrasound, and they're like, yeah, there's not really that much fluid, but it's okay. She's still moving around. She was doing her little flips in there. Very comfortable still. Um, so they were like, we're just gonna keep monitoring. They did an amniocentesis. Girl, I wasn't prepared. If you do not, absolutely do not need to have one, don't do it. Do not do it. It is, I don't care if they say it's optional. This is gonna be great for, don't do it. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay? If you guys can look it up if you don't know what the hell it is, don't do it. So I went to the bathroom probably, now this is 3 days after. I was having contractions. They were giving me medication to stop the contractions. Um, I was having more contractions than I realized, because I'm so good with pain tolerance.
Yep.
Number one, the cramping in my back were actually contractions
Contractions. Yeah.
at the house. Did not realize. Um, but they were catching them on the monitor, and they're like, are you having a contraction? And I'm like, no, I don't feel anything. And they're like, oh, you're having a big one. And I was like, that's weird. Okay. And I think it was like 3 days after my water broke. No, 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 no. It was a week after, because that was the day before I ended up going for the emergency C-section. I had wiped, and it was literal shit coming out of my vagina. And I was like, guys, I'm sorry, but it was. The doctors so nicely put it as mucosum, which is baby shit. Okay.
Yeah.
And the doctor looked at me. I said, you said to tell you if there's a change in discharge. I'm thinking dried up blood and whatever,
Yeah.
pieces of my cervix, uterus falling out. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Um, and it was on my pad. So I had taken off the pad, and I had changed, and I showed the doctor, like, hey, my discharge has changed. And she's like, what? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, did you poop? And I was like, no, I pooped yesterday. I haven't pooped today. And she was like, are you sure you didn't wipe your behind and not your vagina? And she's very confused, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, I'm looking at her like, bitch, I think I know my vagina from my ass. I'm 35 years old. The fuck? Confused now. So she's like, stay right here. Like they had just around, stay right here. I'm gonna go get everybody. So they all come back in the room. They're all looking. They're all asking the same question. And the doctor was like, we'll be back. And I was like,
Oh fuck.
great.
Yeah.
So what the fuck? What's happening? Right? So she comes back in and she goes, so, we've talked and, this is mucosum. And I was like, I don't know what that is. She goes, it's poop from the baby. And I was like, little bitch used me as a toilet. She shitting out my vagina. How is this possible? Because when they poop and pee, they're not even supposed to poop in there yet, right? I don't understand. And it all goes in the fluid. Apparently, their amniotic sac is filled with their own piss here, people. That's why it keeps rebuilding. Just so you understand the logistics of the funness of being pregnant. So I was like, she used me as a toilet. She shit through my vagina. I have never shitted through my own vagina. And I'm very baffled at this. Like, I was still very confused. And I was like, she used me as a toilet? Like, in my mind. So she's like, how you feeling? This, that. We're going to check. We're going to check her. Let's put her on the monitor. And she seemed fine. She was doing okay. But they had sent me to labor and delivery to start potassium and something else. I forget what it was. Magnesium. Did you ever have to do magnesium drip?
Nope.
Girl, when I tell you the heat that comes over your body, I was sweating. I was sweating from the inside out. It was, if you guys have ever had a CAT scan, that warmth that goes through your body, it was that intensified. Okay?
Sounds like a hot
When they put
flash.
that fluid in you. Oh, yeah, but it was like pulsating, radiating, and you just felt horrendous. You felt dizzy, like nauseous. It didn't feel like you were yourself. Okay? Prior to that day, I had received a steroid injection in my ass, by the way, very painful. But they had to give me 2 shots to help Sky's lungs before I gave birth. The kicker with that is you could only get it that once. And they try to time it to get it done within 24 hours by the time they're born. Otherwise, it's not effective. It doesn't last. It's very short term when they're about to come.
Yeah.
But you have to get the 2 shots in. So when I tell you that the timing was perfection of my medical team, because I got that last dose in the night before I had her, which I truly believe contributed to her being as amazing as she is. So, anyway, get wheeled in, they send me back. They're like, all right, everything looks good. Contraction stopped. That very next day, I started having the worst contractions. Now, mind you, I've been contracting in full-on labor the entire week, okay? But that day was the worst. It was the worst contractions I had ever had, where I was screaming. And this is how you knew it was too late. Her father was at work, and they're like, hey, can you call him and tell him to come back? They didn't want to alert me
Right.
just yet that I was going to have a C-section immediately. But they told me that, we think that she's probably going to come later today. So we want to talk about this, whatever. Mind you, this is in the morning. It's probably like 10 a.m. at this point. So I'm like, all right, they're talking about maybe 4 p.m. to do the C-section. So he comes back. We're in labor and delivery. Everyone's coming in talking. I literally got the worst contraction to where I stopped breathing. And they're like, you gotta breathe. You gotta breathe. And her breathing was dipping and her heart rate was dipping because the contractions were so strong and
Yeah.
she was so little that they were compressing her. So they turned to me and they were like, we need you to breathe. We need you to calm down. They put me on oxygen. They're trying to talk to me. I hear the nurse go to her father and say, hand him a bag. Put these on now. We're going down to the operating room. I said, we're doing what? And even he was like right now? And she goes, Dad, focus, put them on. We need to leave in 15 minutes. And I was like, gonna do what? But I'm focusing on them,
Yeah.
not hearing anything, right? So I was like, but you told me I had until this afternoon. What are you talking about? Right? Timelines. Never listen to timelines. So they're like, don't worry, everything's fine. We just rather get you down there. They don't want to freak me out.
Yeah.
But I see the faces of everybody. Okay. So we end up going down. Um, my back is messed up. So when I tell you now this was the second round of epidural because they had to do one for my cerclage, my back was not having it. So here I am hunched over the table. I got nurse in front of me. There are literally 50 people in the room. 50 people. We have people, just my doctor team, my nurse team. We have the NICU team, the nurses, the respiratory therapists, the emergency teams. Like, when I tell you there were teams,
Yeah.
I felt like the whole hospital was in that one room. And they told me, they said, there's going to be a lot going on behind the scenes. There's going to be a lot of talking, a lot of moving. They're all getting ready to be prepared for you and for her. I'm like, okay, great. Here I am sitting here. I got doctors behind me, everybody around. And I'm just like, this is great. I'm scared. I'm freaking out. I'm having contractions. You want me to sit
Yeah.
still in my mental and physical state. Cool. The one nurse, bless her heart, holding on to me, like holding onto my arms, just telling me it's going to be okay. Don't worry. We got this. Like, such a sweetheart. Honestly, don't even remember who she is because it was chaotic. Okay. Um, but I'm like, okay, great. Focus on you. As they're jamming stuff into my back, they're like, don't move, don't jump. When they inject, when it's in the wrong spot and they inject, you get shooting pain
Yep.
down your legs to where you literally, your body convulses and they're telling you don't jump because there's a needle in your spine. Well, bitch, guess what? I can't help it when you're electrifying my body.
Right.
Okay? So that went on for like 25 minutes where they
Fuck.
couldn't get 25 minutes. Okay? And they're like, don't worry, we're almost there. And I'm just like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. And I'm like, you guys just, maybe you should just knock me the fuck out. Like, is that an option? And the nurse looked at me and she goes, do you feel like you're gonna pass out? And I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling so hot. Apparently, I went gray. So they got some swab and was putting it in my face, gave me oxygen. They're like, give her a break, hold on. I was literally about to pass out.
Yeah.
They ended up getting it in. The whole process of the C-section, even in a normal situation, I feel like would be very traumatic for anyone.
It
There's a
is.
lot going on.
Yep.
You've had one, so
I've
you
had two.
understand. Yeah, oh, see, yeah.
Yep.
There's a lot going on. There's so much noise, so many smells, so many like sounds and sights, and then you can't see
Yep.
a lot of things, but you're hearing things.
Yep.
And according to her father, he said it sounds like they're working on a car. And I was like, no, I just feel like a fucking truck. Like, I feel like a slab of meat,
Yep.
you know? And they're calling out what they're doing and what they're cutting through. And I'm just like, oh my dear God, they're gutting me
Yep.
like a fish on this table. Okay. So they get her out and they're doing their assessments and they're throwing all these numbers out. And I don't understand these assessment numbers. I don't. Apparently they were pretty good. Then they started declining. So they put in a breathing tube. And meanwhile, I'm hearing all of this. They call him over there to go see her. He was able to take a picture of her. And she had her eyes open, which they were shocked that her eyes were open because apparently that early, their eyes
They
are not
shouldn't have
open.
been, yeah.
Yeah. But she was looking right at them like, what y'all doing?
Well, it sounds like her.
Yeah. And now that you know her,
Yeah.
you will understand
Accurate.
the fight sass of that child. Yeah. Literally looking at them like, what are you touching me? What you putting me in this little bag for? Bitch, get off me. Like, could swear that she was probably cussing them out in her head.
Yep.
Um, so they wheel her off. They forget to take my cerclage out. Everyone's like leaving, right? They're stitching me up and they're like, oh shit, we got to take the cerclage out. Called the doctors back in to come cut the stitches off my cervix because if they were to pop,
Yeah.
I would literally lose my cervix and my uterus. I probably would have bled out. Very dangerous, by the way.
Yeah.
It is. Um, so I know you recall that first night. I was sick. I ended up getting a fever. It was like 105. Apparently, because I held her in so long and her pooping and the stress and my membranes were exposed.
Yep.
It was a lot. So me and Sky ended up having sepsis and had really bad infections in our blood. Um, and there was literally one point in time where I was like, "Am I gonna die?" Because once I would warm up, I would just start shaking, and it was so bad. Um, but 5 hours after her birth, the NICU doctors come in, and when I tell you that was the first and the last time that I ever saw that NICU doctor, it was because I was ready to ream her a new asshole. And thankfully, I never saw her again. Doctors rotate out every so often, nurses stay. Thank God they stay. But the doctors came in, there was two of them, and asked me if I had been up to the NICU yet to see her. And I was like, no, I haven't. But he did. He went up. But I still was in a lot of pain. I couldn't move. Um, it was bad. So they were like, well, you should make your way up there to see her. And if you have any family or friends that you want to meet her, you should call them in because we don't think she's going to make it. You should call them in to say goodbye. Now, when I hear this, right, my first thing is I'm picturing my baby, my brand new little baby, laying in a bed by herself. Nobody giving a fuck, nobody caring. That is not at all what was happening.
Right.
They were working night and day,
Yeah.
24/7
But
to
still.
make sure she was
Yeah.
okay. But when you say that, I'm like, you gave up on her. You gave up on her. Here she is by herself. Right? That's all I'm picturing. The bedside manners for some of these doctors are fucking horrendous. Horrendous. Like, really? That's what you're gonna come to? I can understand you having to tell the truth and be,
Right.
very open and no tact. But you gotta have some kind of
There's got to be something. Yeah.
understanding.
There's got to be something. Like,
I mean, here I am, a first-time mom, just had a micro preemie, and I know the possibility of her surviving at this point is extremely slim, but we're hoping for the best. You could at least say she's very sick. We're doing everything we can,
right.
but we're worried.
Yeah.
Because all I'm hearing is, she ain't gonna make it. Come say goodbye. The fuck? So I turned to my nurse. I was like, load me up with however many pain meds you can to where I'm not going to feel anything, but I'm not going to pass out. Literally what I said. Put me in a wheelchair and get me up there. My first time seeing her, I just started crying. I lost my shit. Because I saw her very briefly when she was in the incubator being wheeled up to the NICU because they had to really rush. Understandably so, she was extremely sick. So seeing her there and how tiny she was, I was like, good Lord, how is she going to make it?
Right.
And literally that's the only thing going through my mind was like, what the fuck? What now? And after that first day, my whole mind said it changed. And I was like, no, she's fighting, I'm fighting. For as long as she's fighting, I'm going to continue to be strong and I'm going to fight. I'm going to speak nothing but positivity. I will not be negative. There was not one day that I went to that NICU that I was crying or upset from the jump. If something happened, there were a few times where her heart stopped, and her breathing dipped really, really low, setting off all the alarms. She had to be bagged a couple of times. Um, Thankfully, she never fully coded, but it was pretty rough a couple of times to
Mm-hmm.
where we thought she was going um, to where her heart rate literally went to zero and her breathing dropped down to like three. It was scary as fuck. And at those times, I definitely did cry. And every time I would hear the alarm go off, I'm like, oh my God, is she
Yep.
okay? Especially if I'm behind the curtain pumping, okay? Because here I am trying to pump to produce milk for this child that came too early, which was traumatic in itself. But um, it was rough. The nurses there, honestly, are the ones that helped me the most. And when I tell you that NICU nurses are some of the most amazing human beings, even the respiratory therapist, shout outs to them. I am so very close to a lot of nurses and respiratory therapists that took care of Sky, and they are family for life. They're stuck with us. I tried to get them to take Sky back a couple of times.
They were like, no
They don't
thanks.
want it. They knew from the beginning. Everyone was saying she was very sassy and feisty from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
She liked what she liked, and she didn't like what she didn't like. And her nurses knew her very well. Her nurses knew when she needed a blood transfusion by the way she was acting with her stats. They knew when to touch her, when not to touch her. She was very picky on particular times of day, very cranky at certain times of the day, and they just knew, hey, let's hold off on some care times right now. Sky ain't feeling it.
Yeah.
Um, and it was amazing that they could sense that from her. It was great. So I was very blessed to have an amazing NICU team. I will say that because they not only took care of her, but they took care of me. Um, One of her nurses, Karen, rest God love her soul. She's the resilience of this woman. She's very sassy, and I think that's why I loved her so much. And still love her. But she would yell at me, literally. She'd be like, "Don't you want to go eat lunch like now, mom?" Like, who are you talking to? Karen. And she's like, "Goodbye." She would be quick to kick me out. And it became very apparent that it was because she knew I needed a break. I was in there from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, sometimes later,
Mm-hmm.
working from her bedside every single day. I missed one day, and that's because I was in so much pain from the C-section. And I think it was like the day after I had left the hospital. So I was like, no, I'm there every single day. And I'm calling every single night because I could not go to sleep without knowing what was happening, even though I just left a few hours ago.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. There were some parents who barely showed up,
Yeah.
and
I
didn't
could.
call. And I didn't understand, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
Um, and whenever I would get one of her night nurses that I absolutely adored, I knew it was going to be an okay night. You know, I would always say whenever Karen, Kara, Kirby, or Emily were on, I knew I was fine, and I knew one of them would call me immediately if not.
Yep.
Um, those were the days that were the easiest for me to go home. I did spend a couple of nights at the NICU. But it is very important. Let me just say, it's very important to go home and to rest in your own bed.
Yes.
As difficult it is to leave your child, but also make sure you're eating because you are no good. You can't produce milk. You can't be cognitive and
Yep.
understand and ask questions and just be there and be supportive of your baby if you're not well.
Yep. You have
So,
to take care of
gosh,
yourself first.
yeah.
Have to.
Shout outs to the nurses and all my friends and family who made sure I was good. Um, a lot of people would ask me like, "Oh, well, what can we do?" And I'm like, "Bring over food to the house. Like when I'm home, offer to come sit with me for the day because I'm gonna be here every day. Like, just check up on me. Ask me how I'm doing. Don't ask me how she's doing because her days fluctuate, right? And any big updates, I was letting people know.
Yep.
But it got very difficult for me to update everyone individually and to update all the time everything that was going on. Any big changes, I let people know. So be aware of that. It's very difficult and it's a roller coaster ride and things are
You've got a
changing.
lot going on. Like it's
Yeah,
hard. A
every
group
second of
chat
the day.
is a good way to do it for the people that you want on
Yeah,
the in, or having a designated person
yeah.
to give updates. That works too.
Everyone's journey is different. I have a lot of close friends who are fellow moms of the NICU. Watching their babies grow have been truly amazing. We bounce things off of each other all the time. We all struggle with different things. Um, it was very real that Sky could come out with development issues. They told me that she was never going to talk, that she was never going to walk. They told me that her chance of survival was 12% to make it home. And here she is, 4 years old, with a bigger vocabulary than any 4 year olds I know. Um, and she's amazing. She's running around. People look at her, even her doctors are like, I micro preemie where? Because the girl is in 6T clothes at 4 years old. Like, well, it's not 6T anymore, it's size 5'6". Like, she's 4 and she's wearing 5'6" clothes. Like, she's a beast. She's just 2 feet shorter than me. She's shut up, I know I'm fun size. But it just goes to say that not everyone's journey is the same. And, there was babies that were born the same gestational age of her that didn't have as good of an outcome as her. I watched mothers lose their babies daily. I watched babies coding with their families not there. And it was hard as a mom to think of what if that was my baby and no, I'm not there and no mom is there, you know?
Yep.
It's very difficult. Um, and there was one time where one of the kids had choked on her milk. And this is further along when we're learning to feed because it's growing feed at that point after the breathing is
Yeah.
all good. Um, and it was bad. It was coming out of her nose. The nurse was panicking. I had to help because she had to get a bag to really like to bag her. It was bad, and her mom wasn't there. And when she came in, she had thanked me for being there, like as a mom, to give motherly love to her child. Because I did hold her. I was like, this is my baby. Like, I'm that
Yeah.
little chocolate thunder. I'm not letting her go. So you bonded on so many levels and, being supportive to other people. And a lot of the moms would always say, like, your smile and your positivity and your openness like helped me get through. And I was like, girl, you have no idea, you helped me get through. Like, so you bonded in so many
Mhm.
ways and you helped each other more than you really knew.
Yep.
um, I was still very early on in our NICU journey. um, Sky was still very small and our mom had came in and had triplets and she was beside herself. All three of her babies were born. I think it was 26 weeks, and they were super small. Um, and I just remember seeing her face, and she was scared, and she was standing outside of my door, and I invited her into the room so she could see Sky and see how she was doing. And, we've been there a little bit longer and, give her that comfort that it does get better.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just something that I was just like, come in, come here, like, and we bonded a lot. I'm still good friends with her, and her three boys are amazing. but it's just not everybody has that great of an outcome, and I think having the understanding of what I went through and seeing the worst case scenarios, and knowing, the best case scenario that happened for me, has given me a different look on life and understanding for parents. And I tell people this all the time now. Sky was in the NICU for 130 days. I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter how long your NICU stay is, even if it's a day, it's traumatic as fuck. One day in the
That's
NICU is
enough.
long
Yep.
enough.
It's absolutely long enough. Yep.
Okay. I don't care. I don't. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, you were in there for so long. I feel crazy for complaining about 3 days. And I was like, absolutely not. That was traumatic. Having a baby in the NICU is fucking traumatic. I don't care, what's going on. Even if
Yep.
they're just there for a quick assessment,
Right.
it's traumatic. Okay. Um, so yeah, it was bad. I went through a lot. I went through a lot of good times. Like I said, her nurses kept me positive. And I think that honestly, that was the reason why I was able to go in there with a positive outlook all the time. And also just seeing Sky's strength, because that little girl gave me strength. I'm like, well, she over here busting ass, growing, doing what she got to do. She was a fighter. And we definitely had our setbacks, but she's amazing now. Um, but that's a situation that I'll never forget.
No, never.
And like I said, I mean, you can't fully prepare someone for what I went through, but just understanding that that type of stuff happens and that it is very traumatic and it is very real. And there are things that, even if you go in there and your baby is, semi okay and they're just there for monitoring, or
Right.
because they're a little bit small and need to grow a little bit, but they're breathing fine, it's still traumatic. One, because you're submerged into the, oh my God, my child is in the hospital. That's traumatic. I don't care what the situation is. Um, but two, the things that you see being in the NICU, even if it is not directly related to you,
Right.
is affecting you in so many
Absolutely.
ways. I went home so many nights and cried for other people, not my situation, because Sky had a great day. I was crying for them. And you almost felt a little bit guilty for having such a great day when you
Yep.
saw everything else around you
It's so hard.
go. It
Yep.
was hard. It was hard to balance the rejoicing that your kid is doing great that day when you see all of the other stuff unfolding around you. It was so hard. Um, but it was also good to talk about the good things, because that helped other moms and helped them through their dark days, saying, okay, there are better days.
Yeah.
So you had to find the balance. You really did. Um, so a few things to show you now that we've talked about this whole traumatic experience, and you guys are probably like, "Oh my God, what the hell?" Um, there's a lot more details I've just left out, but I feel like I've rambled on about it long enough. So you get the idea, right? So this is Sky's first diaper. First of all, can we just talk about, first of all, it's super adorable. Ooh, bright light. Hey. Okay, there it is. This is her first diaper. This was too big for her.
Yes, it was.
So we had to literally, literally, guys, I'm not even exaggerating. I have photos of me, videos I'm not going to show you because it was not endearing of my poor child and her privacies. Um, but we had to fold her diaper down in half
Yep.
to be this little, and that was still swimming on her little body, yaddy yaddy.
It was.
I know, right? To give you an idea, this is a normal newborn diaper. This was Sky's.
Yep.
Okay, crazy, right?
Insane.
Her little tush tush was in this diaper, and when I tell you it was super big on her, she somehow weaseled her way out. And one day I came in and found her whole leg hanging out the top of the diaper, and I was like, "What are you doing with your little chicken thighs?" Like, put them little chicken thighs. She had little quail legs. I'm not gonna lie. I did say she looked like a little quail because she had a big old belly bump. But she did look like a quail. So this was her little diaper. Um, oh,
And for the
this,
audio, the diaper is literally smaller than her hand.
oh,
No, but
yeah.
you're good. You're good.
We'll post pictures, guys. I'm sorry. Like, hey, look at this, and they're like, "What? I can't see it." Ah. Um, you guys can actually look online too if you wanted to. I think this is called. Let me see what it has. P2 is what it's called, which is a preemie number 2. That was the smallest diaper they had in the NICU, and like I said, we had to fold it in half because it was way too big for her. Um, Typical normal newborns go into either a size 2 or a size 3.
Yep.
She was not in a size 3, even I think she was in a size 2 when she left the hospital. Mind you, she was 4 months old, technically, when she left the hospital.
Right.
But she was still about 6 pounds and a couple of ounces. She was a
Yep.
newborn size. She was just wearing newborn clothes at 4 months old. So the fact that she is now 4 and wearing 5'6" is insane at how much she has caught up. So this little guy is an octopus. They call it an octopus. It looks more like a squid to me. But they're snuggle buddies and little grannies, and I could picture you making these, Steph. They knit them. So it got these little squiggle things, which mimic umbilical cords, which babies, even in the womb, love to grab onto the umbilical cords. So the little babies in the NICU would always grab onto these, and it was very comforting. Um, they would have us like put them under our shirts to get our smell for the babies. But this was the size of Sky. There's literally a photo of her where this is laying beside her, and this top part of this octopus squid was bigger than her head, but the length of it was her body.
Yep.
She was laying in there. So this is the size of my hand, guys, and I have very tiny hands, by the way. Uh, I do. I'm well aware. We all know T-Rex arms. But yeah, that was the size of her. So now to see her, she loves playing with this, by the way, and it's her little squiddy. And to see the photo of her with it versus now and it fitting in her hand is like insane.
Absolutely.
I bought some little clothes. I'm gonna share photos, but I honestly don't remember which outfits I have. I tried to pick out outfits that I think I have photos for to try to match it up. But mind you, she didn't wear clothes for like the first 5 weeks of her life. The reason being is because they try to mimic the womb and have humidity, so she wasn't able to have clothes on. Plus, her skin was very fragile, so they didn't want to move her around and put her in clothes.
Yeah.
But this was one of her first little outfits. You see size
You froze
of
on
my
me.
head. I think she wore this when she was like 2 or 3 months old. I don't remember. But yeah, she was very,
Show
very
it one more
tiny.
time.
And
You froze, so show it one more time. You froze. Show it one more time.
Oh, you froze. This is her little.
So cute.
I absolutely love this little floral thing. It looks such a big head with this little. But this is a preemie outfit, and it was still swimming on her even when she was like 2, 3 months old. It was very big on her, and to be honest, there were some outfits donated to the NICU from what's it called? The Bear Workshop. Is that what it's called? Where you can go make the teddy bears?
Yeah. Build-A-Bear, right?
Build-A-Bear.
Yeah.
They will bring in outfits from Build-A-Bear because they fit the preemies. A lot of Halloween costumes were Build-A-Bear costumes.
That's cute.
Cute. Insane. Absolutely insane. So, is it me or you that's freezing?
You keep freezing for me, so I don't know.
Yeah. You keep freezing for me, but I'm not freezing, which is weird.
Yeah, I.
Apparently it doesn't like us right now, but that's all right. Jerks. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Haha. Um, this was another one of her outfits. Guys, it's literally the size of my head. It was huge on her for the longest time. But finding anything that would fit Sky was very challenging, you know? Um, for instance, I took her home in this outfit.
Yep.
Because it was freezing cold. It was November. But this is a newborn outfit, and this just fit her at 4 months old. So, yeah. This was her hat that her auntie Laurie made her, um, which fit her. I think she was around 3 months old. Little ears on it. Super cute. Um, just to say, if you are a knitter, I'm just gonna put this out there. Think about making hats and these little octopus squid things for your local NICU because they are in need of hats for sure. Babies that are born really early, the hats in the hospital don't fit, and they literally cut them and tie them off to try to fit them. But these hats of all different sizes, and when I tell you there are smaller hats than this one that I have, her first hat was probably about this big,
Yeah.
literally half of that. Um, and it helps. It helps all the babies. So just just a thought if you want trying to figure out how you can support these babies in the NICU. Also snacks, drinks donated to the NICU centers are amazing. I am going to do that again. I did do that one year where I brought in a bunch of snacks for the break room for the parents because half the time we go without eating or snacking and being able to run there in there and grab something. And a lot of past NICU families and just people in general donate a lot to the families there, which are amazing. So there's that. Um, like I said, my journey was very different, but similar in different ways. And you're never going to be fully prepared. What I will say is support the people who are there by not being invasive, constantly asking questions about the baby, about what different things are. It would irk my soul because it took a lot. It took a lot of energy, mentally, physically, for
Yep.
me to be able to text people. And then when they're like, "Well, what does that mean? What's happening next?" And I'm like, "I understand. I understand that you are concerned, that you want to know, but for the love of fucking God, there is one. Google it.
Right.
Don't ask me because I'm over here trying to figure it out and learn. I'm also dealing with everything. Just Google it. Phone a
I'm trying
friend.
to think. Was I one of those ones?
No, you weren't.
Okay.
You were not.
I'm like,
The,
I could have been, but I know that I Googled a lot,
you
so.
you did ask a couple of questions for minor details that I did leave out. And I get that. And like I said, it's very difficult to reiterate everything that the doctors are
Yeah, of
saying.
course.
I kept journals. I've recorded conversations. Her nurse, Emily, literally wrote down stats every day so we could go back and look at stuff. She had a log about my child, which was amazing. Um, but just don't bombard them with questions that you can go find the answers for, even
Right.
though you're like, well, it's quicker to just ask you. It's not. It's a lot harder for that
Yeah.
parent. It's a lot. Um, it's very traumatizing. Even on a good day. If I text and I say she's having a great day today, okay, that's great. So when do you think she'll be home? Oh my god! Don't ask me because tomorrow could be a very bad day.
Right. It's still so early. Like,
I'm telling you, like, some of the questions that I got, I was very confuzzled.
I don't.
I was just like, how are you asking me this? Um, And I'm sure it was coming from a very great place and a very genuine place. But you really got to dig deep and be extra mindful in that situation. So that's all I'm going to say. Um, Kitten gloves, just offer to be there, but don't be intrusive because, there were many nights where I got home and I didn't want to deal with anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want anyone to be there. Offer to drop off food,
Right.
offer to order food and have it delivered. Don't be intrusive and say, hey, I'm going to come over tonight, because by the time I'm home, the last thing I want to do is replay everything going on and
Right.
have to sit there and talk about it. Is very traumatic, and I'm in trauma mode still, like having to sit there and talk about it when I just left the entire day of hearing all the alarms and the beeps and the buzzes and trying to figure out
Right.
what's happening with my child, and watching her get IVs stuck in her head, and spinal taps, and you have no idea what someone goes through in a day to day, because I surely didn't tell everyone
Right.
every single day everything that happened. Like I said, I ended up just doing the big things. Um, but don't further traumatize by having them relive and rehash. If they want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. I'm telling you right now. There were days where I was like, "Oh my God, I'm just freaking the fuck out," and that's when I would unload on people. But the constant questions, I ignored a lot. And it's not because I was being mean or didn't want
Right.
to answer you, but respectfully, I
You
couldn't,
couldn't. Yeah.
you know? So if you are a family member or a very close friend, and you're trying to figure it out, go there. Go spend a day. Go in the morning with your friend. Every morning they do rounds, they explain everything, and you can ask questions. If the parent says yes, they can ask whatever. They want to know what's going on, then they'll talk to you about it.
Yeah.
You can be included in that. You can be included in family meetings if you're a family member and want to know more, and because it's a lot. So not only are you navigating this world of, hey, I just had a newborn, hey, my newborn's very sick, hey, I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Right.
But now you're also becoming a fucking NICU nurse at the same time, because you're being thrown into all this medical terminology
Right.
that you don't fucking know, all
Nope.
these medical issues that you know nothing about. And when I tell you that I left there knowing, like, I could have probably went and got my
Passed your
fucking, like,
exams. Yeah.
nursing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that, I'm
Of
better than
course not.
nurses, and please, NICU
Nurses are
nurses don't
amazing.
talk
We
to
love
me.
all of our nurses.
I could never do what you do. Uh,
Nurses are the
but
best.
just everything that I learned, and that when I tell you these nurses were teaching me, like whenever something would happen, I tell you all the time. Karen, for number one, she'd be like, okay, so what they're saying is blah blah blah. Don't listen to that. Here's what's really going on. I don't care what they said. Here's what I know. And she would literally just pick apart. And this lovely woman, crazy woman, went on vacation and was calling in to check on Sky and giving her advice on what she knows about Sky. Oh, she's acting like this. Oh, well, maybe check this. And I'm like, love you to death, because that made me feel like Sky wasn't just another kid
Right.
in a bed. That was her baby,
Right.
you know? And just those caring moments. There were times I've caught it on camera where Emily would just sit there and hold Sky and talk to her. Sky was having a hard time when she switched over to the CPAP mask thing.
Yep.
And she was having a really hard time, and she had Sky propped up, and she's talking, and she's like, you gonna look at me? You gonna talk to me? And she's like, you're okay. You're all right. And she's just talking to her, and like everything. I'm just like, and the way Sky would look at her, I'm like, this, the bond that they had. And that's something else that I want people to understand too. If you have a child who's sick and is in the NICU for a very long time, whatever you do, keep in touch with these nurses that have bonded with your child, because I could never rip Sky away from them,
Yeah.
and I don't talk to them as much as I want to. And life gets hectic and crazy, but I still have them on social media. I still send them updates and I reach out every so often, and they can reach out too. They're a part of her life and they had a special bond with her. And I know that they love to see how amazing she's doing.
Absolutely.
And that's something to keep in mind, because me as a mom, I formed bonds with them as well. Like, they became friends and family to me. I talked to them, I saw them every day.
Every day.
I talked to them more than I talked to my real friends and family. They
Facts.
became
Yeah.
extended family. um so just keep that in mind. Like, the NICU journey never ends fully, because you're still connected to a lot of people, which is amazing. So shout outs to all the NICU nurses and respiratory therapists, because honestly, there was one doctor who I loved, and the doctors rotate in the NICU, which is very fucking annoying. I honestly feel like it was like every week, but it was like 2 weeks, or every 30 days or something, that they would rotate out. Um, but I saw so many doctors come and go, and it's like, then you're starting over from scratch,
Right.
and you have these nurses who are on the front line fighting for your kid. Like, no, we tried that. No, absolutely not. This is where we were going when we left off with this doctor. No, we're not doing that again. No, like, they were literally going to war. And
Yeah.
it's because, every doctor likes to do things differently. Every
Right.
doctor thinks they know better.
Right.
But those doctors were not in the room with your child. They might have seen my child for 30 seconds one fucking day and feel like they know her entire life story.
Right.
Absolutely not.
They're in there day in, day out, hour after
Right.
hour. Like,
Nurses and respiratory therapists are in there, hands on, for hours. They have 12-hour shifts. They are in there on the front line with your child. Like, those are the ones I trusted. I didn't give a fuck about what no doctor had to say.
right.
I could care less. I looked right at the nurses like, what? I trusted them over anything. So shout outs to all the nurses and respiratory therapists, because y'all for real are special and hold it down. I don't care what the chain of command is. You
They're the
guys are
ones.
warriors.
They are the
For sure.
ones.
For sure. I wouldn't have made it. I know for damn sure my child wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for her team that she had, that literally spent hours with her when she was having breathing issues in the middle of the night. Her respiratory therapists were literally at her bedside for hours, getting her through some of her darkest nights, including her nurses. So, shout outs to them. Okay. With that said, if you know a NICU nurse, love on them. Okay, they need it. Um, I think the misconception is, oh, well, you get to play with babies all day. No, these nurses hardly get to hold these babies because they're so sick. And the little bit of cuddle time that they do get in, um, is so rewarding. And I didn't realize that until closer to the end of my
Yeah.
stay. Um, and I wish would have realized it, but I was in the mindset of, all the cuddles are mine. This is my child, and she's sick, and I need her, and skin to skin. Um, but I saw the impact that it had on her nurses to hold her as well. Um, and there was one day I was taking off early or something, and Karen looked at me and she goes, "You're leaving? What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm leaving. I told you I was doing a half day." She goes, "Who's gonna take care of the baby?" I was like, you nut. And she goes, "Oh, I get to hold her and feed her? Bye. Leave." Because I was always there and I was always hands on. And it was so hilarious to see the excitement, because she was genuinely excited that she gets to hold her baby. Like,
Yeah.
get out, mom. You're taking all my time. Because they've seen you go through the sickness, and now they want to rejoice, and you're doing
Right.
so much better. They want to hold you when you're happy and doing great too. You know. And one of her nurses, Emily, was a traveling nurse, and she would leave, and she ended up coming back to visit, and I'm like, "Yeah, hold her, take her." It's just the gazing at each other again. I was just like, oh, it just reminds me of when she was little and you were holding her. Uh, So these, like I said, these nurses, it's not all fun and games. It's not all cuddling all the cute little babies.
Right.
They go through a lot too, and they get attached and they get hurt, and it's a lot for them. And yeah, they do it day to day, and yeah, they become accustomed to a lot of things, but they form bonds, and
Still tough.
it's difficult for them. You know, that's all I'm gonna say on that. Love on them. If you have any questions in regards to NICU stuff that I didn't go over, or you thought maybe you wanted me to touch on, or questions you want to ask me, I'm very open about it. I made it through without crying.
You did.
Yay! Um, I think it's gotten a lot easier, but NICU PTSD is still a very real thing. Whenever Sky
Absolutely.
gets sick, I still freak out no matter what. Um, because it was extremely traumatizing, and I always think the worst, like, oh my god, she's coughing, oh, she has a fever, oh, like, it's going to get bad. um, but I've been very blessed in the fact that she's done amazing, and the colds that she has, she's kicked ass, and it hasn't brought her to ever have to be hospitalized again, which I know a lot of babies have been rehospitalized after the NICU, which in itself is even more traumatizing. So keep that in mind. Um, but again, don't be intrusive, be supportive, be a listening ear. Um, is there anything that you can say, like, that you noticed while I was going through my journey, like, from your side of, like, watching me go through my journey that affected you, or that you wish, like, maybe was different, or?
No, I tried to give you the space that I knew you needed to be with her. I didn't want to push you too hard. I didn't want to, like, the germs thing for me was like, I had two kids in school. Like, I was like, I want to be there every day, but I don't, like, if I am one to give this kid anything or you anything because you're always with her, I'm like, I can't. So I feel like I wasn't really there for you in a way. Like
No,
I don't know.
you were, though.
I don't know. I
I
feel
don't
like I could
know,
have been there more.
physically.
Yeah. I mean I guess I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, let's get that out the way. Being there for someone doesn't mean you have to be there physically. And I, like I said,
I
I
literally just wanted to hold you and
respected.
her the whole time.
No,
Like
I
that's all.
know. I
That's
know.
literally all I wanted. I was
I
like, I just
know.
need to hold them.
I know. And it's hard, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, the reality of it is I respected. I was never upset that you weren't there. I was never like, why isn't the bitch coming? She's only been here, da da da. Like,
Yeah.
it never crossed my mind because I fully respected and loved and appreciated that you were concerned about giving germs. And I got that because I was afraid of that myself, no
Yeah.
matter who was coming.
Right.
Tasha came to visit, Jeray's mother came to visit, and I was always scared of, germs. But I will say, the hospital is great, and there no one could really hold her,
Yeah.
um, especially when she was that little. And it wasn't because, they just didn't want people holding her, but it was more so because she was so small and fragile,
Right.
and moving her was a lot for her. So whenever they would move her, I would have to go pee. They'd be like, be prepared to sit for hours, because once they move her and put her on me, she had to rest and recoup from
Right.
that excursion. Like, it was a lot for her. Um, so it was a strictly mom and dad only type of
Yeah.
situation for holding. Um, so, I wasn't too worried about that. But, people want to put their hands in and then want to I'd be like, wash your hands, and hand skinny, and one hand in, don't touch the face. Like,
I don't even
but
think I put my hand in. I don't think I yeah, no. I I just touched the glass. Or the
yeah, I know.
plexi whatever. I don't
And you first saw her, you saw her before me.
yeah.
Yeah. And she was so small and fragile at that point. Um, So yeah, I was afraid to touch her, but I was like, if this is the only time I'm gonna be able to touch her, I'm touching my kid.
Yeah.
And I literally just put my finger on her knee and just held it there. You couldn't rub, you couldn't do anything, and it was very sticky. Like when I pulled my finger away, I was like, oh my god, I want to rip her. Like it was
Yeah.
that bad, you know. So, um, I think even if you absolutely wanted to, you wouldn't have been able to mentally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, so yeah. But don't feel like you let me down in any kind of way. Like I said, I really appreciated the fact that you held off because you were afraid of getting her sick or getting me sick because that was the last thing we needed, you know,
Right.
because if I was
I
sick, I
needed
could
you there. Like,
right, right,
so.
right. So, you know, that goes to show like I didn't know that you felt like you weren't there enough. And again, it goes to show that like even, you know, parents don't realize what their friends and family members are going through, and it's good to always have that discussion when you can, whether it be 4 years later, you know. Might be difficult in the beginning, but yeah, um, just be mindful. Everyone is going through something, um, but you truly have no idea what someone is going through. So just be there when you can. Like I said, you know, drop off food, go sit with them if you can. COVID makes it a lot harder, but care packs, you
Yeah.
know, like granola bars, protein bars, water bottles, like things like that. Like the NICU is really good at. A lot of people donate. The March of Dimes does a lot of things. Peapods does a lot of things. Where they send in little care packs for moms, like toothbrushes and stuff like that. Journals are a huge thing. If you know someone in the NICU, get them a journal immediately. Reusable water bottles, things like that. Like day to day things that you don't think about that can
Yeah.
help them. You know, a little bag to carry everything around in, like stuff like that. Um, but yeah, if you have any questions or any ideas, or you know, like I said, anything you want to discuss or go through, or you yourself have been through something you want to talk about it, I'm here. Hit me up. And on that note, this will conclude our NICU talk. I know it was rather rough for some people. Um, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, cool. I can tell her story because my outcome was amazing. I think if her outcome was a little bit less amazing, it would still be a lot
A lot
difficult to
harder,
talk
yeah.
about the traumatizing events leading up to her birth, because they were extremely traumatizing and they still haunt me. And I'm absolutely afraid of having another kid because I don't want to have to go through that again. And I don't want to put anyone else through that
Yeah.
again. Because, like I said, my outcome, it was a blessing. And I don't know what my outcome would be. Um, you know, there are a lot of things that can go wrong,
Yep.
and will go wrong. So I was very blessed to have Sky as amazing and perfect as she is. So, with that said, we'll post pictures of her from the NICU. So, if that's something you're interested in looking at to kind of wrap in the whole story, please do so. Share in the fact that she is a true miracle, but if you cannot, if it's too hard to see a baby in a medical facility with breathing assistance, please don't look at it, because I don't want to upset anybody. Well, we'll post a couple of links, especially for the March of Dimes, because they are huge in premature birth and healthy births, and women health overall. Shout out to March of Dimes. They do a walk every year, which we are involved in and will continue to be involved in. Hopefully, Sky will allow us to walk the whole thing next year.
Yeah.
If not, I'll probably just bring a stroller. I don't care. 5-year-olds in a stroller. Go fuck yourself if you got a problem with it. Carrying a 45-pound child around on your shoulders is not
No.
conducive to a healthy life. So, with that being said, I love you guys. And until next time, love yourself, love on somebody else, love on a NICU nurse or RT, please, because they need it. Um, and just remember, it's all a bunch of BS. Bye.
Bye.